Thanks for tuning in to Witch Wednesdays with Steph for a chat about a new witchcraft topic every Wednesday morning. Welcome back to Witch Wednesdays. This is Steph, and you are listening to Broom Closet Witchcraft. And we are going to be chatting all about the things that you can do if you want to stay in the broom closet for whatever reason and want to practice in secret. We have lots of tips for you of how you can do that. And when I say we, I mean that I have a guest. So I am going to, once again, because they are not new, let them introduce themselves and tell you where you can find them online.
Hi guys, my name is Becca. You might know me online as the Stitching Witch. I have been on this podcast before, so hello again, everybody. And I'm just really excited to be back, so I'm just super thankful. But if you do end up liking the sound of my voice, I do have a YouTube channel where I make daily witchcraft videos about like literally every topic that I could possibly think of under the sun that relates to witchcraft, and it's really geared towards like novice practitioners and stuff like that, people who are newer to the craft. I also have an Instagram that is under the Stitching Witch, and I'm really like active on there, as well as TikTok, which I am kind of active on, but it also scares me. So there's a lot. But I have links everywhere, but YouTube's like my main one. So yeah.
And once again, I will have Becca's information linked over at witchwednesdays.com and over on Patreon, so you can find her easily. But she was very popular after her last episode where we talked about how to come out of the broom closet if you want to tell people in your life that you are a witch. And she is very active over on our Discord server, helping lots of people out there and being a friend to many. So I know a lot of you have already chatted with her, and she has the same username over on the Discord server, the Stitching Witch. So you can find her easily if you have any other additional questions. But we thought that this topic would be a good follow-up, because a lot of people after the last one were saying, you know what, I want to stay in the broom closet, which is perfectly fine. And if I do, what are some things that I can do if I want to stay in the broom closet or don't have a choice, but I still want to practice? So that is what we are going to be answering today. And we are specifically timing this with October and spooky season, because that was the very first thought that we both had, and the first thing on our list to talk about was using the cover of Halloween as be a time to be able to practice and to get supplies.
Yes, definitely. Halloween is my favorite holiday, like as a goth person, but also as a witch. I just like love Halloween so much, but it's definitely a great cover for like practicing witchy things, because I mean, it's kind of in like the cultural zeitgeist, as it is. We're all like, oh, it's like spooky and fall and like, ugh. So it's of course the perfect time to be like witchy, and it's just great. I just love the holiday so much.
Me too. It is my favorite. My house is done up head to toe. I start on August 1st decorating, and I absolutely love Halloween. But it's really like, I think witchcraft aesthetic in general has grown, but every single store that I've gone to has a huge witch section of decor. And I don't just mean costumes, but they have like decor pieces that I plan on using all year long.
For sure.
I just went to Michael's and I picked up like a bunch of stuff.
Oh my gosh, I'm so jealous. I have yet to go to Michael's because it's like the next town over, and I'm fiending. Like I need to go.
Oh, they have so much good stuff this year that's witchcraft related that you can definitely use all year. And then I just went to Five Below today, and there's a ton of witchcraft books. Good ones too. There's one on moon magic by Diane Alquist, which I've recommended on this podcast before. It was there.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah. So those are great places, because I know a lot of people who are in the broom closet feel, if they are in a small town, feel uncomfortable checking a witchcraft book out of the library, because in small towns everybody knows each other.
Yeah.
So checking that out with the library and being able to see you and your name and what you're getting is uncomfortable for a lot of people. And they also don't have a witchcraft store nearby to go in and buy those things. So if you have a Five Below near you, you can definitely get some witchcraft books there.
Oh my
And
gosh. I used to, when I was like first starting out, I would go to the library, but like I also had that fear because I was a minor. So my parents could like see my account and like see which books I was checking out. So I would just like go there and like read it there and like take notes and stuff and like take pictures on my phone and copy those notes into like my quote unquote like Book of Shadows, which was just like a sketchbook at the time. And I felt like I was like a spy or like on a secret mission or something. I was like, okay, no one can know. I had to like delete it off my phone. Oh my gosh, it was so, like the lengths that I went to like hide what I was doing were like very intense and like extreme. But it was kind of fun. Like it was very cloak and dagger for me. Like looking back, I'm like, oh, it was like very mysterious.
yeah, and I mean, definite ways that people can still do that now if you
Definitely.
need to. This is the season to do it. There is stuff absolutely everywhere to pick up and pass off as being Halloween decor.
Oh, for sure.
You don't have to, bring home stuff and be like, oh, this is all my witchcraft stuff. You just bring it home and put it out and say, this is my witchy room that I'm decorating for Halloween. It goes with the spirit of the holiday.
Exactly. I would say that like when my first altar, which I think again, you guys can like if you dare to scroll far enough back on my Instagram, there are like pictures of it. And my first altar cloth was this like polyester monstrosity that had like spider webs all over it. It was like shiny. And I pulled that out of my mom's like Halloween crate along with all of her like half-used candles. And I was like, this is my altar. Hello. But that was only for myself. Like for everyone else, I'm like, no, that's my nature table. That's where I keep nature. And like, yeah, it's like not witchcraft. It's like totally not, like not at all.
I think a lot of us started that way with Halloween decor that we like transferred over from like, oh, this is in the Halloween decor box to now it just lives out permanently year round.
Exactly.
I did that for sure. So that is why we wanted to time this episode for October, because this is the ideal month to sort of start doing things in secret and getting some of those pieces. They're readily available for you to find and not seem so overly witchy as if you were buying them in the middle of May.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like right now a lot of things are a lot more accessible like in October for that purpose. So it's like the tools. It's the like I know, I think the Maybun box, I guess if this is coming out in October, I'm sorry. The cinnamon broom that was in the Maybun box. Oh, to die for. Wonderful. And that is like, oh, it smelled so good. I like sat there with it like pressed up against my face for far longer than I care to admit. But stuff like that is really popular right now. Like in Home Depot and stuff.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I've seen them at Home Depot.
Yeah,
got one there last year.
I mean, it's still I would say if you can pick up something like that and it's like in season and you just happen to keep it around all year round, like I think that's a valid thing. Like I think that sometimes people get it in their heads that you have to go to a metaphysical store or you have to go to a witchy like Etsy or whatever to get your tools. But I would say that like 98% of the stuff that I have that I use for witchcraft, like I just found like in thrift stores or stuff like that. So like, Halloween and like the harvest season and all of that kind of all has a witchy vibe. So if you see something out and about, like scoop it up, like treat yourself.
Absolutely. And I would say that at least 50% of the things that I keep up year round were bought at Halloween time at a Halloween decor store like Spirit Halloween or Michael's.
For sure.
At least 50%.
For sure.
And they have good stuff. I don't know what else to say. So beyond just being able to use this time of year and Halloween in general as sort of a cloak for everything that you are doing and being able to stay in the broom closet, we also have some ideas of just literally a list we made. Ideas to run down of things that you can do that are very witchy and how you can practice, but still be totally in secret and that nobody is going to know. So the first one on the list is, of course, to just keep studying. And I know that study seems like the least fun part of witchcraft, but it is essential. And I think the more you do it, the more fun it is. And you realize that it's not like being forced to read that book in high school that you hated in English class.
Right.
This is fun study. This is like reading about fun stuff that you actually want to learn about and commit to memory, which is a totally different experience.
No, definitely. I think that the act of studying is a really great way, like even just like reading a couple pages of a book is like a great low energy way to practice witchcraft, because I feel like it's an active, that pursuit of knowledge is an active, almost like working, where you are actively bettering yourself in your craft. So I think that's like a really great way, like even if you can just get through like a couple paragraphs at the end of the night before you go to bed, to like continue your daily practice, if you are able to do that, even if it's just like reading something like, from one of your favorite creators online as well, like a blog post or something like that. I think that is also like a valid way of like practicing on a daily basis for sure, and it's fun. It's like I love it.
Yeah, I love still learning about stuff. And if you are
Mhm.
concerned, if you are underage and your parents can see what you're checking out of the library, like Becca was, but if you're just concerned about people seeing what you're reading, there are some topics within witchcraft that are completely normal outside of witchcraft, depending on what sort of practice you're going for. But growing plants is essential to a green witch, but growing plants is also completely outside of witchcraft if you
Mhm.
want it to be. There are tons of books that you can pick up from the library that will teach you about growing plants and herbalism, and people who witness you reading those books are going to have no idea you're using it for witchcraft purposes.
Yeah, that's like definitely like my go-to example for people who do ask me about that kind of stuff. They're like, "Well, where can I start?" I'm like, "Have you picked up a gardening book?" Like, that's pretty, I think that's a really great way to even just like dip your toe into that world where they're like, "I think I'm interested in green witchcraft, but like I don't know where to start." I'm like, plant a plant, like, and go from there. It's all good. You don't have to be an expert right away. But I think that like I mean I know I read a lot of gardening books and like herbalism books, and especially when I was like not out with my practice at all, that was kind of my go-to. That, and I studied a lot of like mythology. um so I work with deities, and was like obsessed. I don't know if anyone else went through this phase. I feel like a lot of people did, but maybe that's just me projecting. But I was like really obsessed with ancient Egypt for far too long of a period of time than was probably normal.
Mine was
I was just
ancient
like,
Greece, but I feel you.
oh yeah, I was like so into it. Like, it was amazing, and ended up coming full circle. And now I work with two Egyptian deities. So like, like that interest, when I was younger, definitely kind of shaped the witch I am today. And I'm really glad that I pursued that. And I think that being familiar with those myths, is a really great way to inform your practice if you do end up working with deities, or even with like the folklore of a specific place. Like, I know that you had an episode about the Fae, which is like amazing and super awesome. But like even learning like the history of Ireland, or wherever, whatever region that you're studying, or like whatever region the that ties into your craft the most. Because some people are more into like the Greek like paths, or versus like American folklore, or folk magic and all of that. I think that learning about where some of these traditions come from and learning the history of the land that these come from, is like really important. I know it's like maybe dry, but I think it's a good to familiarize yourself at least with the history of like what happened like back, in ancient times as best we can, in order to understand why in modern witchcraft we practice the way that we do, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. It all ties together, and you don't have to. I mean, we have recommended various books about, the history of the Fae, but you don't have to read a book on history from a witchcraft perspective.
Mhm.
It can just be a straight history book,
Yeah,
in which case nobody is going to know that you're reading it for witchcraft purposes, but it will all eventually tie in together.
right, exactly.
Yeah, mine was ancient Greek, so I
Okay.
know all about a lot of Greek myths and how that ties in. So if your option for reading your witchcraft is Percy Jackson, then no judgment. Okay.
I was really about to be like, okay, so you liked Percy Jackson. It's fine. No, I'm just
Totally
kidding.
loved Percy Jackson.
No, it's
Absolutely.
really good. I definitely had a Percy Jackson like moment. Like they're good.
Yeah, absolutely. And there is a lot of Greek mythology that comes into that's actually accurate. So
Yeah.
it's really interesting to read those books, and don't go based on the 2 movies that they made.
Oh, what movies? I don't know what
Those
you're
don't
talking
exist.
about.
Those don't exist. But yeah, the books have like a ton of information that's accurate to the ancient Greek gods and goddesses. So those are super interesting. So if that's your option for reading, then no judgment from me. Another option, since Becca talked about note taking, is to keep those notes online and use digital versions of everything, because anytime you write something down with pen and paper, there's a possibility that can be found by somebody that you don't want it to. So if you go digitally instead, you can keep everything online, you can keep it password protected, and then not have everybody seeing that information that you don't want to see, but still being able to access your notes and take notes on your studies or your spells or anything that you need to keep track of.
Right. Yeah, I had a really bad experience with that, like when I was like underage and trying to do all of this, where like my parents found that stuff and I was like obviously like lied, and I was like, no, I'm researching for a story that I'm writing, and they did not believe that because they were like, you're like 14, please stop trying to act like we're stupid, like we are adults, like we know what's happening. And they ended up just like getting rid of that stuff, so I lost like the first like couple years of my practice in about 15 minutes, and that really just changed the entire way I practiced, because at that point I was just like, oh, okay, so we can't talk about this to anybody. And I started keeping everything digitally. Like I have a Google Drive, which is free if you have a Gmail account, I believe. Like if you come up with like a like fake email, I guess, or just one that only you know about, that's like a good way to kind of almost password protect things, in my opinion. Though again, if you are underage, like I feel like there's a weird gray area there, so please, like I'm not telling you to disobey your parents. So but that's what I did. Like I mean, I'll openly admit it, I was underage and doing that. So I do really recommend, as an adult, having everything on a backup drive anyways, like just in case something happens. If you like, if you're going, even if you're traveling, like if you're going somewhere and you're like, oh man, I want to do this thing, but my Book of Shadows is at home or my grimoire is at home, you'll have it like digitally on your phone, which is super cool. And that's another one of the reasons that I decided to do my YouTube channel on YouTube, is because it's there digitally, like theoretically forever until I delete the channel. So it's not going anywhere. And it's cool to be able to look back on it. So I like that aspect of it as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's important to keep a record of some sort that you can, look back on. So if you need to, I know that Books of Shadows and like really pretty covers and cursive handwriting is really popular, but if you need to keep everything digitally, then absolutely go for it. And you can change the backgrounds to make them beige and make it into cursive font, and it'll look just like a Book of Shadows pages.
I was gonna say, like, my handwriting is awful, so I'm going to be eventually making like a handmade Book of Shadows thing. I haven't quite gotten there yet, but I'm working on my like actively working on my handwriting, so it's like legible. I'm like, oh no. But
yeah, if you are someplace that you can actually write it down, like you prefer to write it down, and are willing to do that, don't think that people are going to go snooping, you don't have to get one of those like leather bound Books of Shadows that you see on Etsy that have like eyeballs on them. Like you can just get like a general school notebook or like a other pretty notebook that are popular and all over the place that have nothing to do with witchcraft, because nobody's going to know what's inside of there. So if you just get like a blue spiral bound notebook, everybody's going to, think it's another school notebook wrapped in there and not necessarily go searching through it.
Yeah, exactly. And they have like really beautiful, like actually beautiful journals and stuff like at Walmart. Like I know that's a weird thing to say, but like some of them I'm like, "Oh, it's holographic and has a deer on it. Hearn will love this. Like let me just get a, like, oh, it's only a couple dollars. Let's just put it in the cart. It's fine." Like and that's how I have way too many journals. But
Same.
um it's fine. It's whatever. It's not a problem, right? um no, but I think that's a really valid thing, and again, like you said, people aren't going to like take a second look at that at all, like versus one of those huge like epic tomes that you can get like on Etsy or like at a Renaissance festival or anything like that. Like then people are going to be like, what is that, like if you don't
Yeah.
already have a bunch of like creepy books like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of normal items that you can pick up at Walmart, there are a lot of normal items that can be used in witchcraft. So scented candles or kitchen herbs that you buy in the herbs section of Walmart in the spices section, those can be used in witchcraft. So even though they aren't marketed to you as a witchcraft product, a candle is a candle. So I often use birthday candles in my spells because I like them to burn out quickly. Um, a lot of I do like some rituals where it like takes longer, but for a lot of my quick spells, I do not want to be sitting there all day waiting for a candle to burn out.
Mhm.
So birthday candles are the way to go. They come in a lot of colors, and yes, you can buy them at Walmart for a couple bucks,
Oh
and they're
yeah.
not at all marketed as a witchcraft item. So you don't need to come up with an excuse for buying them. You can buy birthday candles at any time.
Mhm. Or like one of the things that discovered recently, there's at Dollar Tree, there's like religious candles, which I know is like kind of like obvious when it comes to like witchcraft and stuff, but they're just like white jar pillar candles for $1. So if budget is like part of the thing that you're kind of worried about, you can in fact find things like for cheap and repurpose them like really really easily. And I'm a huge advocate for finding magical tools in mundane spaces. Like I think that's amazing, and like finding cool and unique ways to repurpose. Like, for example, I didn't have a mortar and pestle for a while, but I did have a like guacamole dish thing that had like a little like I don't know, like grinding part. And that's what I used for a while. It's like kind of awesome. It's like wooden, it's cool. But like I found it and I was like, oh shoot, that's to make guacamole. And also I can grind eggshells into powder. Excellent. You know?
Yeah, you might have more on hand that you can use in your practice than you think that you do.
Definitely.
Just look around your house. You don't need all of these um, fancy and very specific witchcraft items like a curved blade. If you don't have a curved blade lying around, like that's okay. You don't need
Yeah,
it.
like
You don't need to find a
pencil,
reason to
dude.
go buy one. I mean, some things are just not necessary. You could have like a lot of things on hand, just especially in the kitchen. I feel like a lot of things come from the kitchen that can be used in your witchcraft, and nobody is going to know the difference. You
For
don't need
sure.
to source your rosemary from an occult store. You can get your rosemary at on your local grocery on your shopping trip.
Yeah, I mean that's what I do in the winter because I mean I live in Pennsylvania, so it gets really cold here like in the winter, so my herbs, like especially the ones that I have outside, die. So I cleanse my house using rosemary as like the primary herb because I don't really like the smell of sage personally. So I use rosemary, and I will go to like the fresh herbs section at like whatever grocery store and buy like rosemary, or like sometimes they have like different like thyme and stuff like that. And they do have sage as well if that's something that y'all are interested in. And I'll make my own like smoke cleansing bundles out of that. So I'll like wrap it up with string myself, and it's like a like cheap and easy way to cleanse my house. And I think that like just buying rosemary doesn't like seem out of the, like I mean I guess smoke cleansing is a little bit like obvious, but if you're using rosemary for like a spell or something, or as an offering, like putting it in a jar or a sachet or something like that, or as an offering to like your ancestors or your deities, however you're using it, I think that like just innocuously buying rosemary or whatever herb is a great way to it's great and accessible these days, and you're totally allowed to get it at the grocery store. Like use what you like, use the resources that you have, you know.
And if you do need to cleanse and you don't want to use a smoke bundle like that, you can, especially now, given the scents that are out for the season, is to get a scented candle and do it that way. So rather than having to decorate a candle with herbs and oils, you can go to Bath and Body Works and buy one of their Christmassy cedar scented 3-wick candles that's, you know, got a pine tree on it, and that scent is very cleansing for the space, and you can clear out energies that way, and people will just think that you are burning a 3-wick candle from Bath and Body Works like everyone else does this time of year.
Oh, definitely. My boyfriend's mother got me a bunch of like cinnamon candles for Christmas last year, and I've been using them for like anytime I need to get energized, and I don't have the heart to tell her that her Christmas gift is like going towards witchcraft, and I'm like, I'm so sorry. But they just smell so good and it's so easy. So
Yeah,
no, I don't think she would actually care, but it's just funny to me. I'm like, sorry.
Yeah, all these ways that you can use these completely otherwise mundane items in your witchcraft practice. You just have to be a little creative. And along with, you know, the big 3-wick candles, using tea lights and birthday candles is ideal if you want to do candle magic and you need to do it quickly because you live with other people who are not accepting of your practice and might interrupt your spell work, or might just notice that you're burning a pillar candle. Those take a long time to burn out. Even, you know, taper candles, they can take a couple of hours. So if you are needing the candle to burn all the way out, then using a tea light or a birthday candle is ideal for quick spells. So nobody can walk in on you and interrupt you and ask you what you're doing and why you're staring at this candle that you're waiting to burn down. Birthday candles are very quick. Everybody's seen how quick a birthday candle blows out.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, like birthday candles, we all know, like we're all standing there, like waiting for the person to blow out the candles before the wax gets all over the cake. So I think we all kind of know like how quick. I love birthday candles for like quick works like that. I have very little patience like in my life, like for things like I'm like, okay, come on, I got things to do. Like not, you know, like when I'm in the ritual space, it's a little bit less of that, but like that's just my general energy. So like when I discovered that I could use birthday candles, it was like my whole life was changed. I was like, oh, amazing.
So much quicker.
Fantastic. And then for tea lights, I like those a lot because they're really easy to clean up.
Yes.
That little metal tin, so like that way you don't have to like explain like wax drippings like on furniture or anything, because I'm a mess, so wax is just all over my altar. But when I use tea lights, it's really nice because I'm like, oh, I can just like take this little metal thing and I can just like throw it away, excellent, or like recycle it, great. So I do really like using those for quick and like clean spells, like in case that's a concern for anybody.
And in general, kitchen magic is one of the best ways to practice in plain sight without anybody knowing.
Oh, for
So
sure.
if you are looking for something that you can do that's a little more, you know, ritualistic, a little more spell work involved than just lighting the candles, then moving over into the kitchen is probably the easiest way. That like all you're doing to an objective outsider watching you is cooking a meal. So
Oh, for sure.
tons of ways that you can then incorporate witchcraft into it. We had an episode on kitchen magic, but you know, you can draw sigils into things, you can use corresponding ingredients, you can just charge it with your intention and energy, whatever it is that you're making. You can make things that are seasonally appropriate or match the Sabbats and pick your ingredients that way. But it's probably the best way to practice in plain sight.
Definitely. I think there was like a conversation recently on the Discord actually about like using coffee in magic, and people were like, "Oh yeah, if you just brew your coffee like with cinnamon in it, it'll like have the same sort of properties as like adding it to your cup." And I that blew my mind. I was like, "Why in my like 24 years of life have I never thought to do that?" I was like, "Wait, that's right. There are no rules for coffee. Excellent." Like, huh. So
That was
that was like,
Allison. Thanks, Allison.
yeah, thank you.
Learned a
Oh
lot.
my gosh. You changed my life. Like, thank you. But yeah, that was like little things like that I think are really just cool. Like and incorporating herbs into your foods that have specific correspondences is like actually a lot easier, like in the kitchen, like obviously because you are cooking things. And I think that is like a really cool way to start learning about herbalism as well. So it's like, oh, okay, well, I'm using basil in this and that attracts love, but it's also an anti-inflammatory or whatever. I'm not 100% sure. Please do your research before quoting me on that. But I really enjoy that. And I think that also, like, again, I work with a lot of deities, so I try to find cool recipes that are like tied to them. So I try to find like traditional like Irish foods for the Morrigan, or traditional Greek foods for Hecate and stuff like that. So I try to like explore my deities and my craft and expand that a little bit through actual like kitchen magic. And I know that seems kind of strange, but like dedicating that food as a devotional act and dedicating that preparation as a devotional act to your deities is a really beautiful offering that I mean mine have always been positive about. So it's something that I do recommend if you are interested in kind of delving into that world. I know I talk about that a lot. It's just like a main core of my practice. But I just really like that act of service, basically, that act of preparing something and magically doing it with that intent.
Yeah, I don't think any deity is going to be mad at that because it's a
Right,
extra layer of effort that you're putting in for them.
yeah, exactly. That's really what they're focused on. They're not going to be like, well, it's burnt. Like, no, what? Like, it's fine. Like, you did a thing for them. That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Besides kitchen, bath and shower magic is also a great way to practice in secret because ideally you're the only one in there.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully, if you are living with family or people who are, not accepting of your practice, hopefully they are not following you into the bathroom to watch you shower and make sure you're not doing witchcraft in there. So that is a time when you can just have that moment to yourself to clear your mind. We've talked about taking cleansing baths. And if you're not able to take like a full bath, then just taking a cleansing shower. And incorporating spell work into that time. So it can be about, cleaning and washing away energies, but you can also, hang a eucalyptus bundle from the shower head and it will like smell like a spa in there. So the rest of your family is not going to know that that's the reason. You just be like, well, it smells good. It smells like a spa in here because the water releases, once the water hits it and the steam hits it, releases all that scent and it smells good and makes the bathroom smell clean. Everybody is on board and everybody likes it. But for you will know the magical associations with eucalyptus.
That's
so another
funny.
way to add that in.
Yeah, I was gonna say that is the exact example I was thinking of with the eucalyptus. I was
love
like,
eucalyptus.
Like,
Yeah, one of my favorite scents. Yeah,
it's
absolutely
so
love eucalyptus. But yeah, and eucalyptus is like a popular one outside of witchcraft practice. Like it looks pretty in bathrooms. A lot of people use it just as decor. It is a very popular bathroom item, so people won't know that it's witchcraft related.
Right.
But it's also
my favorite. Sorry, go ahead.
but in showering in general, there's a lot of different ways you can use that water. You can use it for energizing. You can get your soap to be scented for whatever spell you're thinking that you want to do in the shower. So if you need anti-anxiety or relaxing, if you shower before bed, then getting something lavender scented can help with that. So lots of different things that you can do within the shower, but it's just a good time to be alone.
Yes, and I think that nowadays you can find like in stores like natural, like quote unquote like organic or natural like soaps and like lotions and stuff like that that have like essential oils like mixed into them, or like say they do at least. And you can tailor that to your intention, which I think is like really cool, and not something that I had ever really thought about until recently, when I was like looking at something that was like, oh, this has Himalayan pink salt in it, and I'm like, oh, excellent, like I need this for a self-care thing I'm doing, and it's just there on the shelf, I don't have to make it. Cool. Like it's just so accessible these days, and like because you know what it is, and like maybe these other people who might be judging you don't necessarily know, it makes it like that much more special for you, because like it's like something that is specific to you and your life and your practice, which I think is amazing.
Yeah, I enjoy that too, even though I don't have any broom closet issues. I don't have to hide any thing. I mean, it's just my husband and my dog here and nobody
Yeah,
cares, but there are still things that I enjoy keeping to myself. Like there's
for
just,
sure.
something that's just nice to have, that it's just mine, that,
Mhm.
my husband doesn't need to know all of the reasons that I do all of these little things, which he doesn't ask anyway. But if he did, I probably would keep them secret anyway, because like some of it is just nice to know that it's just mine.
Oh, for sure. I think that a big draw to this spirituality, and this is a generalization, so if this does not apply to you, I do apologize. But I think that, like, something that at least drew me to this was the personalization of my own spiritual path, where I'm like, oh, okay, so I'm being validated by myself, and like this, like being a solitary witch, because I mean, I still pretty much am a solitary witch. I gather with a group every so often to celebrate the holidays, but I don't go to a coven meeting regularly, especially not right now. But I think that being solitary in that really, and being private, and like not being able to talk to anybody about this kind of stuff, especially in the beginning, really strengthened my like connection with this spiritual path, and like made me want to pursue it more. So I am all about that, like personalization, and like having things just for yourself within your witchcraft. I think that's beautiful and amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Which goes along with the next thing on my list was something else that only you are going to know about, is glamours and glamour magic.
Hmm.
So if you have any detailed questions on glamours, I have that up on Patreon already, a whole episode on glamours video. So if you want to see that, head over there. But glamours in general are something that you can do while you're getting ready in the morning. A lot of people associate that with makeup, but makeup is not the only option. But glamours in general are something that only you're going to know about, especially if it is something like makeup and you wear makeup every day. That's one of those things that my husband has no idea about. He knows I wear makeup every day, but he doesn't know anytime that I enchant my lipstick or my eyeliner.
Right.
That's just something that is personal, and nobody outside of myself knows what I am using those things for.
Hmm. Yeah, so I professionally like work in fashion. I'm a fashion designer, and I
A damn
like,
good one, by the way.
yeah, oh my gosh, thanks. But like at work and stuff, like if I'm ever like just feeling stressed out or something, like, and the next day I'm like, all right, I need to go in like confident, like queen, like, boss, like whatever. I have a specific pair of like red shoes that I enchanted that no one knows about. I mean, until now, I guess, but like those are like the heels, and everyone knows when they hear those shoes like walking on the like the factory floor or whatever, that like I'm there, I mean business, and like I'm ready to go, because it's like red is a power color. It's the color of confidence. And those shoes are cute. So like why not, you know? It also reminds me of like the ruby slippers from Wizard of Oz, like a little bit, but it's fine.
I love that. Some other ways that you can practice that only you would know about, is to, if you are more on the green witch side, or just feel like you need to balance your nature energies in general, is to get outside in nature by yourself. And right now that's pretty easy because it's a social distance win.
Oh
So,
yes.
if your family thinks that it's kind of weird that you want to go for a walk by yourself, just tell them like, well, I don't have a lot of options right now because things are closed and limited and I need to stay away from people. So I need to get some time in the sun. I'm cooped up in here. And then that is a good way for you to be able to get out into nature by yourself.
Mhm.
and be able to do some spell work outside. And if you are worried about other people, like strangers outside staring at you, you don't have to do anything that draws attention to yourself. You can just go outside to sit and meditate and look at flowers and trees and connect with nature in that way without having to do anything physical that other people can see.
Yeah, even if it's just like walking around the block and enjoying, like as we go into fall, for us people in the northern hemisphere, as we go into fall, just like admiring and appreciating the beauty and like watching the seasons change and observing that is a very like witchy slash like witch adjacent, I guess, activity to do. And I think that, with the upcoming and like the harvest season and all of that, and watching the leaves change and going to the pumpkin patch and all of that kind of stuff, it's all kind of nature centered and like harvest centered and like plant centered. So I think that it's definitely a good like time of year to start like delving into watching the cycles of nature happen, and then you can continue with that in the winter by going outside in the snow or etc. So I think right now is like a very good time to kind of, if you haven't explored that avenue, definitely get into it.
Yeah, and I just like being in nature. I feel just a little more balanced and in tune with myself. So
Mhm.
even if I don't go out for a specific witchy purpose, I think I bring that home with me and then put that into my spell work and intentions, that I'm just like all around feel better.
Definitely. It's very grounding, which I mean obviously because you're outside and like near the earth, I guess. But it's definitely, I always feel like a lot more relaxed and like it's almost like I can breathe better. Like sometimes I feel like I'm just like anxious and like holding all of this like pressure like in my shoulders and in my chest and stuff. And then as soon as I get outside and like out into nature, like into the woods, I'm just like, okay. It's
Yeah,
fine.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So if you feel like you have a little more leeway in being able to own a couple of things, uh, but still want to keep them hidden, travel altars are extremely popular. We've talked about those before, about just keeping them in a small tin, like an Altoids tin, something like that, that you keep with a bunch of mini supplies. And by keeping that stocked and with you, you don't have to have a huge altar and have supplies all over the place. You can have just your little tin with a birthday candle and some salt, a crystal or two, whatever it is that you consider your essentials, especially if you have some place in your room that you can tuck that away, that you think that, nobody's going to come snooping and open your Altoids tin.
Yeah, right, right.
Then that can be a great way to keep a collection of mini supplies, because you don't need any supplies to be a witch and practice spell work. But I've mentioned before that these physical items can be helpful, and they can just give your energy and intention something physical to wrap itself around. And that
Exactly.
is a little bit easier for beginner witches to like envision how that works when there's something tangible there. So if you do want to have supplies, then going the mini route can be very helpful.
Exactly. And like I think that, to reiterate on the point of like you don't need tools, like I am fully in agreement with that. The way I kind of see it is like you can technically you can build something with your bare hands. It just sometimes is a little bit easier if you happen to have a drill. But if you don't, you can still do it, if that makes sense. So like that's when it comes to, especially people who are starting off, and a lot of people who are in the broom closet are new to this whole thing and aren't really out and talking about it. But I feel like there's like this like anxiety or rush to get all of these tools and all of these things, and it's like you don't necessarily need all of that. You may, like, I don't really use a wand in my practice, but some witches have to have it, and that's cool too. um so I think that by going the mini route, or like setting up a travel altar or a tiny altar, where you can really work out the, almost like working out the kinks of something, like and really personalizing it and getting it to a point where you know what you like to use, and then you can kind of scale that up to like a full size when you are able to have an actual altar out and about, if that's something that you wanted to pursue. So I think that like in general, like even just starting small, like with tiny altars, is a great way to get into really practicing. Yeah. So yeah.
And it's a good way to gauge the level of disinterest of the people that you live with.
Yeah.
If you have, these mini stuff and start putting out like small things and just sort of see if they notice, like crystals are becoming very mainstream.
Oh, for sure.
Lots of people have crystals decorating their house. So if you put one out and literally no one in your family notices, okay, then maybe you can get another one and or have like a smaller one someplace and try that. And if you get a candle and put that out and nobody notices, then that's
right. It's like
slowly be able to grow things. But by testing out the mini options or the options that are sort of on the more mainstream end, like crystals and candles.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and those are just like witchy essentials, I feel like, for my house. Like I have to have one crystal and one candle per room, like minimum. And that's just like me. You don't have to do that, obviously, but like for me, like my kitchen, I'm like still trying to figure out that situation. And I'm like, it's incomplete. Where is like the moss agate? Like what is happening?
I need a crystal in every room. I don't disagree with that assessment. Another way to practice in secret, if you are artistic, is to get into sigils. So sigil magic is very powerful, but can also just look like doodles. So if you are already artistic and doodling all over everything, your sigils are just going to look like a continuation of your artwork. So that can be a great way to decorate notebooks. If you're always drawing on your hand anyway, you can turn that into sigil magic. If you're drawing all over your notebooks, books that you have, like we said, putting sigils like into a pie crust. If you're already doing doodles and you're an artistic person, then nobody is going to think twice about you having another artistic doodle on the back of your hand.
Oh, definitely. I 100% agree. I wish I was better at making sigils. I'm just really not. I don't know what it is in my brain that like I feel like I should be good at it, but I'm just like it's not symmetrical enough for me. So I like freak out. But I do really like anyone who can make like beautiful sigils. I'm just like teach me your ways, like teach me how to do this. Because it's a really easy way to do magic. Like it's accessible. You really just, I mean, technically you don't even need a pen. You can, a pen and paper, you can just trace it out like onto the back of your hand with like moon water or whatever, or onto your windows, or which is something that I do to help ward my house. And it's cool. Like I really like the sigils as an avenue of witchcraft. I think it's a really neat thing.
And I cannot for the life of me remember it off the top of my head, but I'm going to find it and I'm going to link it in the show notes. But there is a website where you can make a sigil and then hide it within a photo. Like there's different ways to like have like a decorative like photo and it's hidden within the pixels of that and make it your phone background.
So cool. That's the coolest thing I've ever heard. Oh my God.
I know. I'm going to find it. I'm going to link it. I cannot remember for the life of me what it's called.
I mean,
off the top of my head, I'm going to find it.
All of my Instagram posts now are just going to have sigils in them. Like I need people to know that one right off the bat.
Yeah, it's so nice because I mean, you could obviously just draw your sigil and make that the background of your phone and nobody's really knows that you could just say that it's one of your, artistic drawings. Nobody has to know what it is, but you can also hide it within a different picture using this website and you will know that your sigil is in there, especially if you do want to use it on your phone. You can make that sort of protection if you're trying to protect your phone and the items on it, but you can also use it for your own personal spell work if you need, confidence or happiness. So every time you turn on your phone, then that sigil is charged. Then you would know what that means, but nobody else would just looking at your phone.
Yeah, I used to, I weirdly enough, this like I just had a memory that I forgot about, I guess. But I used to like have on the inside of my phone case, like a sigil for like clear communication. So that way, anytime I was talking on the phone or like texting with somebody, like my text wouldn't be misconstrued or, there would be like less like miscommunication between myself and like my parents or like my friends or my partners or whoever I was texting at the time. So it was like on the inside of my phone case. So unless someone was like actively taking my phone out of the phone case, which I don't know why anyone would do that, unless you were changing the case, I guess, nobody knew about it. And I
Yeah.
kind of forgot about it until I changed, like I got a new phone. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot. That's pretty neat. That's a handy dandy little tip, huh? So
Yeah, that's a good one.
yeah.
And you could also, if you want to use sigils but don't want them left behind, then drawing those in water can be a good way to use them as well, especially if you make moon water.
Mhm.
And moon water can be easy to make even if you are in the broom closet, because all you have to do is leave a glass of water on your windowsill.
Yes.
And, if your parents or anyone asks, you just were thirsty in the middle of the night. That's all you need to do. And then you have water, and you can make sigils if you want to draw a protection sigil on the back of your door or on your car, and nobody will know that it's there, but you made it in water. So that is a good way to also practice your sigils without anybody knowing.
Definitely, definitely.
And if a good way to bridge the gap, this might not be a tip for everybody, but if you are coming from a religious background into witchcraft and you want to continue your religious background, that you're moving into, like Christo-pagan sort of realm, you can use your prayer candle. So they have prayer candles for angels and saints. Again, at the dollar store, like Becca said, there's lots of ways to get your hands on them, and you can use that in a witchy way rather than in a strictly religious way.
Yes.
So that can be a good way to sort of bridge that gap, especially if your family is still religious and you want to keep sort of, that part of your background, but move into witchcraft. Then rather than using it as a prayer candle, you can start working with those angels and saints in a magical way within your witchcraft practice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a really good idea, especially like if you are like a Christian witch or anything like that, to start working with the saints, or if you do work with angels, like if that is part of your practice. I think it's awesome that like that sort of not equipment, those candles are just like so accessible. And I think they can even be like, repurposed if you wanted to use them for other purposes, like, oh, here's my like red pillar candle to this angel, but also I'm working with them on self-love, or whatever. And anytime I light this candle, it's also a prayer. It's not just a prayer to them, but it's also like for this self-love working, for example. That's just an example. So I think that they can be used in multiple different situations, which I think is great. And like I like the flexibility of candle magic in general. So definitely I would say like getting creative with how you use the tools that you have on hand, or that you have like that are accessible to you, is a great way to customize your practice. And you can really keep things on the DL that way, by being a little creative and figuring some stuff out.
And remember that more and more things are moving towards the mainstream that used to just be considered pure witchcraft. Astrology, hugely popular now. Witch or not, everybody, knows their sun signs and reads their horoscope, whether they say they believe it or not. But generally know like what their sun sign says about their personality. So astrology is becoming more mainstream. Meditation and yoga is becoming way more mainstream. The use of incense, like incense is everywhere. That was another thing I saw today at Five Below. It was like $4.6 for $1.
Oh, love it.
So lots of incense, but a lot of these things are being sold at mainstream stores because they are not being associated with witchcraft directly. So just remember that things are slowly coming around. So if you want to buy any of those things or get a book on astrology, that might not be the worst thing in the world. Your, family or friends might not automatically think, oh, she's a witch. No, it's just something that's becoming, it's more popular and just generally around more. So that is opening up some doors.
Yeah, I've seen like witchcraft books at like Target and stuff, which is like, or it's like astrology and like crystals, like kind of how you were saying, like you had like you found stuff at like Five Below. Yeah, I think that definitely the accessibility has changed drastically in the last like even 10 years. And like the internet and social media has just been such a beautiful like blessing, I think, to this like spiritual path, because it's like allowing us to like connect and talk to each other and learn from each other, and it's just amazing. So yes.
I think that was everything on my list, which was quite a few things because we've been at this for an hour. We always are like, yeah, we're gonna
short one. Yeah,
we're gonna keep it together and work off the outline and have our thoughts all together and just burn through it. And no, it never works out that way.
No, not me at least. I'm very long-winded, and I acknowledge that.
I always have a lot to say. This is not a first. But that was everything that I had on my list for being able to practice in secret and broom closet witchcraft. But there are just generally lots of ways that you can. So all is not lost if you don't want to, do the big rituals and have the huge altars that are popular on Instagram right now. That's definitely not necessary. And if you need to keep it secret, that's fine. And if you prefer to keep it secret, that's fine too. You don't need to tell anybody what you're doing or why you're doing it. It can be completely private.
Right, exactly.
And lots of ways to be able to do that. So if you have any other broom closet tips that you want to share, or some ways that you practice in secret that you particularly love, then head over to the Discord server. You can sign up there for free. We are both there. Becca is super active, talking to everybody and sharing her ideas. So lots of great people to talk to and chat with. I'm sure there will be lots of ideas running there today about broom closet witchcraft, because I know that it's a popular topic over there. So if you have anything you want to share, we will be over there chatting with you. But otherwise, that is all I have for you today. Becca, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Nope, just that I really enjoyed it, and hopefully I can talk to you guys again soon. Yay!
Yeah, we know we're gonna have you back. We just have too much to say, so we have to have Becca back. But that is all we have for you for this one, but stay tuned because she'll be back again, and I will be back next week. Bye.
Bye.
This podcast was made using the free platform Anchor. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Now you can even add any song from Spotify directly to your episodes. The possibilities are endless for what you can create, whether it's music analysis, your own radio show, or something the world's never heard before. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership, and it's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Need even more witchcraft? Subscribe to Patreon for exclusive bonus content 3 times a week and order Sabbath boxes and other supplies at witchwednesdays.com. Be sure to follow on Instagram at Witch Wednesdays Podcast.